I'm going to make this ribeye, and I'm going to have some eggs with it, and I'm going to have some coffee, and I am going to make breakfast, and you're going to watch me. Okay, so the first thing, I've got to get my coffee started. The water is already heated up, and I use the AeroPress. I've had this for, I don't know, a decade or more. I like the AeroPress because I can make 1 cup at a time, and I've gotten pretty good at it by watching, there's a YouTube guy who did an extensive test on how to make the perfect AeroPress, and it's not done by following the instructions that come with the AeroPress. Those instructions are wrong. Plus, I have a aftermarket little cap here that has a valve in it rather than holes, and that allows it to hold the water for a steeping time. So I used to worry about how much to fill this up, but the answer is fill it up close to the top, and then you give it a stir. And then this sits, not for 10 seconds or 15 seconds like they say in the instructions, but like for a couple minutes. So while that's happening, I get this started. So we got to get the fire going on under our pan here, and I put that down to the lowest medium setting. And that is going to need some tallow. So I put a generous amount of that in there. And I don't know if that's generous or not. For me, that's generous. For some people, that might not even be a start. But that's how I do it. So now I've got this beautiful ribeye, and there's lots of marbling here. Typically, I eat New York strips, but the one that's in the refrigerator is kind of big for breakfast, and also it's not as nicely marbled, and I want to start the day off with really good fat. I did my blood sugar and ketones right before filming this, and blood sugar was over 100, and my ketones were 0.4, so not great. So I'm drying this off right now because you don't want this to be wet when you put it in the pan, otherwise I guess it makes it more difficult to get a good sear on it. Now many people would salt this, but I'm not going to. I will put it in unsalted, and then when I flip it, I will put some seasoning on it, and you'll see that step. But anyway, now this is getting heated up. Our range is not leveled properly, so everything pulls to one side. I'm going to go over here to the Thyfer because I'm going to finish this steak in the air fryer, and while it's air frying, I will do my eggs in that. So I use the steak button, which basically just sets it to 450 degrees. And then I crank up the time so that it won't stop before I'm done. And then I get that preheating. So now this still has some time to get heated, so I'm gonna finish my coffee because it's been sitting here. And all you do is you put the plunger in, and you just put the weight of your arms on it, and just let it slowly push all the water through that valve, and that is what strains all the coffee through that paper filter. And give it a little extra squeeze, and now this is a very concentrated coffee, and I add water to fill it up the rest of the way. Otherwise you get sort of an espresso, and I don't ever want espresso under any circumstances. It is not to be had. This is my second cup of coffee, so I add my 5 milligrams of creatine to it. It is flavorless, and it's good for my muscle recovery, and supposedly good for cognitive stuff. This is my milk frother, which I use to incorporate the powder of the creatine into my coffee. And now my coffee is ready. Take a little sip. Perfect. So now this is smoking. This tells me this is probably about ready for the meat. So I'm going to put this on here, and it's going to start searing away. So while that's going, I'm now going to separate my eggs because there's plenty of protein in that steak for me. So I only eat the yolks, and I separate them by cracking them and filtering it through my fingers. Too bad the garbage is so full of garbage, but try to ignore that. And yeah, the separation isn't perfect. There's a little bit of the white coming through there, but I don't have a lot of patience. So this is what I do. You could do the shell to shell trick, but I don't find, oops, I broke that one. And I will do about 4 or 5 yolks. It just depends on how hungry my stomach feels at the moment, and right now it feels pretty hungry. I am on day 2 coming back from a fast, so maybe I need a little bit more. And the low ketones were of concern this morning. I wasn't really understanding why, since I've had a perfectly compliant carnivore day yesterday with lots of fat. It's just how it is, I guess. So now we are going to go back over to the steak, and it's just going to sit here and sizzle. And after I feel like it's had enough time, I'm going to lift it and check to see how the color is on that side. But I want to give it a little bit more time. But many people would salt this thing to death before starting to sear it. And I don't know, I just don't like it that way. It gets too salty. It's not getting seared in the center very well. So now we're going to flip this thing, and whatever the sear is what we're going to get. And that's a little pale in the center. I don't know why. Maybe it's a little bit higher. Wasn't in good contact, but the edges look pretty good. So now I'm going to take this seasoning, which has some salt in it, and some other little spices, and I'm going to just try to keep that on the meat and not in the pan. And I won't be flipping this again. After this sears on this side, it's going to go in the air fryer. So I'm not going to sear it entirely on this side, because when I put it in the air fryer, that pan is hot, and so it's going to continue to sear on that side. But what I want to do is get some of the edges that are fat. So I'll do this little action here. Not very long either, because I don't really have a whole lot of patience for it. Plus, I don't like getting spattered by the hot grease. And I don't mind if a little bit of my seasoning is getting into the pan, because that's going to get into my eggs. And I like that. So now I'm going to grab the air fryer. And I'm going to whip that in there. See it sizzling. It's continuing to cook. And now that's going to go. I'm going to turn this heat down a little bit. And the eggs are going to go in. And if they break, I don't really care, but it's nice to have the runny yolks with the steak. And then I'm going to hit this with a little bit of salt. And these need to be tended a little bit, because they don't cook very long. Let me get my plate from behind you, JJ. Oh, well, sort of turned it.
Hey, it worked.
Oh, that one broke. Doesn't matter, because they don't cook long on that side. Heat off. Now we're going to check the temperature in our... Whoa! It's smoking because we didn't clean it after the last session, and that is 132. Goes on to rest, and that'll rest for 5 minutes, and then I'll plate it, and then I'm gonna eat it. So we want to wish one of our viewers a happy birthday, belated happy birthday. So Natalie Rice, Happy birthday
Happy
month.
birthday. Happy birthday.
You get the full month of November to be your birthday.
It's your favorite birthday month.
Well, it's my birthday month.
But we're not talking about Eric
But
right
mine
now.
isn't for another couple weeks, so.
It was your birthday. Happy birthday. We are so excited for you and happy that you're in our community.
Okay, it's time to plate. And the way you plate a steak is you take it off of the wire rack and you put it onto the plate. That's how I do it, and it's worked every time. So now I'm gonna eat this. So it could be a little more beautiful. I think that my egg execution continues to be a little amateurish, but I don't really care because the presentation doesn't have much impact on me when I make my own food. So now we're gonna cut into this. It's a very thin steak, so, but I think I got a pretty good medium rare on that. I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty good. And now I'm going to take a bite. Now this is so fatty, I'm very excited. Yep, and it's plenty salty enough with the seasoning that I put on there. If it was a thicker cut, it might not get distributed down in through the full cut, but for whatever reason, this one was thinner. So now I'm gonna get a little bit of that egg yolk and do a little of the egg yolk dip. Oh, that's so good. That adds a creaminess to the bite that I really miss in non-carnivore foods. So I really enjoy that, and it just adds to that salty, creamy, fat, delicious flavor. So I was eating eggs and bacon for breakfast every morning, and that was working okay. But switching to steak and eggs is the champion move. Just way more protein than the bacon. Now I could have made some bacon and added it to this mix, but the truth is I don't like bacon enough to bother with it. And I get plenty of food to be satisfied for breakfast with this. That's quite the shirt you're wearing there, TJ.
It is dress rehearsal #1 for the youth theater group. So yes, I am in my official show shirt. So Eric has asked me to critique his cook. And first of all, let me say, your cooking skills have come very far from what they used to be. And I would say your ribeye was beautiful. Like, that was a beautiful, beautiful cook on the ribeye. As you mentioned, the eggs were, they don't look so beautiful, but honestly, if I were cooking my eggs in a cast iron pan, they would look about the same. And they were completely serviceable. So the thing I am amazed by, though, is how different we cook, because you have everything timed, you're in motion, you've got it so efficient. Like, it's not quite as short as like pouring a bowl of cereal, but you've got it down. And for me, I'm not able to multitask quite as well. And I'm also like, okay, I'm gonna set the timer for 2 minutes, and then I'm gonna check the steak, and you've just got it timed perfectly, which is kind of how you do things. So yeah, I would say you were awesome in the kitchen, and your cook was pretty dang wonderful.